Well, welcome everybody. This is Pastor Sherman, and this is Christ&Culture show. I want to welcome you all to the broadcast today. Hope everybody's doing well today. There is no rioting going on here in Las Vegas, folks. I want to let you know that right off the bat. We are right now. We have hot. We've got a lot of heat here, but other than that, we got no riots, which is great. So, I want to welcome you all to the broadcast today. A lot of crazy stuff's going on, and we hope that we're able to make sense of it today. I want to welcome all our folks that are watching us on YouTube. I'm going to go over there right now, folks, to make sure that if you're on YouTube, that you're going to be able to see it. Yeah, I can hear it too. So if you want to watch us on our YouTube channel, we got the YouTube channel is up and running, and remind you, if you are watching us on our YouTube channel, go ahead and you can get in on the conversation, which is great. We'd love to have you in on the conversation. If you'd like to write to us, you can write to us at christandcultureshow@gmail.com. That's Christ and Culture. And somebody was asking me about this. They said, "Hey, you're never answering me." And I said, "Well, are you putting and Christ and, like spelling out the word and? That's what you need to do." And they said, "Oh gosh, I've been screwing up." Yeah, you've got to write the and in between there, folks. So christandcultureshow@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Anyways, let's and also, somebody else was mentioning it, that they've been trying to check out the show via Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. And once again, just give it a little bit of time. Once you find it, folks, it's pretty easy to find after that, or on Godstream TV. On Godstream TV, the website is being updated, so folks, just bear with us. It generally takes a while to update anything, so it is what it is. Well, let's welcome Pastor Tommy to the show. It's good to see Pastor Tommy. We've not seen you in a week or so. How things been going?
Pretty good. I'm starting to enjoy the hot weather. You talk about no riots. That's probably why. It's too hot to riot here.
It's too hot. No, they're saying, yeah, I won't be there. No, that's it. I'll be near the water because it's hot. There's no doubt about it. It's definitely hot here in Las Vegas. So how have you been keeping cool, I guess would be the first question.
Staying indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Got to stay indoors, I mean, it only makes sense, right? Because we in Vegas have learned the secret to staying cool. You just don't go outside, you go out early. So I go out riding my bike. Now,
yes.
do you work out? I mean,
I do floor exercises, not anything too specific.
Okay. Well, I ride a bike all the time, and so I've learned that if you go out real early in the morning, then you can dispel any of that stuff. So get out early. The sun's just barely peeking out, then you can get out there and you're good to go. But other than that, no. Once the sun comes out, we're done. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So things going good with church and such.
Yeah, things are going well. We're living in interesting times, so it's just good to see Scripture actually playing out before our eyes.
Oh, that's good. So you were mentioning this before we got started. So you actually got to meet somebody very, very special. And would you like to share with us the special person that you met?
Sure. He thinks he's special anyway, but we had a Zoom Bible study, and the guy came on, and he claimed to be a disciple of Jesus Christ, who is now walking the earth. And I said, wait, hold on. I said, did you say walking the earth? You mean as in his body? He goes, no, he's alive here on earth. I said, where? He goes, Atlanta. I'm going, but Scripture tells us that he's going to come through the clouds and everybody's going to see his glory. Did we miss that?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's. But he says so. So did he give his name? Did this guy give his name? Who the guy?
He didn't give his name. He had a little name on the thing, but the guy's name that claims to be Christ is.
Yes, that's who I want to know. Who that guy is.
Yeah, I have it in my computer. It's Jehovah and Yeshua mixed some kind of way, and I forgot how it came out. But he has a website and everything, and
well, at least he's at a website though. You got to have a website
Yeah.
if you're Jesus. If you're
Oh,
the
and he
new,
has TikTok. Yeah, he has TikTok. Jesus has TikTok.
I had no idea Jesus was tech
I
savvy.
I didn't either. And you know what his primary purpose is, from
Oh,
what he says on his
oh,
website, is to fight the U.S. government.
wow. Oh, well, of course. Yeah, that's we're like the big Satan, I guess, right?
But
And
I thought the government should be on his shoulders. I mean, wow. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here.
oh, maybe we're the new Rome or something like that in his mind, right? That's what he
I
was
don't know.
here. That, that's very interesting. So you
Yeah.
mentioned this. It's like you don't expect. I mean, of course, we all knew that there were going to be false prophets. You never expect to meet him, though.
Nope. No. No. And my question, I had a series of questions for him,
Hmm.
and he just wrote them off. But my question is, why aren't you in Jerusalem? Why are you in Atlanta? Why, you should be in Jerusalem, right?
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
one of my questions was, um, well, if he's alive now, where's Mary and Joseph?
There you go. See, there you go. See, you asked him, and his
His answer was just far fetched. It just didn't even make any sense. He said
he
that
just
they weren't real people. Joseph and Mary weren't real people.
oh yeah, okay, yeah. This guy's not good. This is. So is he coming back? Is he coming back to the Bible study? I hope. Maybe.
No, 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 no,
No.
no.
What?
We don't.
He's not gonna.
Well, because we have younger believers and we don't want them getting confused and
Yes.
you
Okay.
know,
Well.
it's
All right.
one thing to be entertained, because we're versed in the word,
Uh huh.
you know, it's almost like entertainment, but
Yeah.
um,
Because really, this would be a great object lesson, right? In like hermeneutics and apologetics and defending the faith and everything else. Because when this brother starts coming out going, "Hey, America," I'm going, "Wow, I wouldn't even think that we would even be in the mix. We wouldn't be high on their list of
I
things."
didn't think so either.
But yeah. Okay. All right. Well, such is life. Well, Pastor Tommy, we had a very interesting weekend, and this first thing we want to talk about is these riots that happened in L.A. L.A. is on fire right now. What time is it in LA now? It's about almost 4 o'clock. So the rioters are probably just starting to get their stuff together. For those of you who don't know what happened in LA over the weekend, starting Friday, I didn't realize it until Saturday. But there was and I'm gonna let me give you the whole story here real quick, and then we'll come back to it. On Friday, a group of ICE agents showed up at one of the police stations over there to pick up a couple of guys, and it just so happens that this police department is next to a Home Depot area, and people started seeing the cars that were amassing for these ICE people, and they said, "Hey, they're coming over getting the people from Home Depot. They're getting our Home Depot people." And so that's basically what started it. That people were thinking that they're going to go and round up. Many of you've seen this. You've seen the ICE agents, or you've seen all the guys in front of Home Depots, and they thought they were starting to get all these guys. But no, they were there to get guys who had been adjudicated. Judges said, "Get them out. We got rapists, we got murderers, we got some really bad hombres here," and the judge said, "Get them out of here." And so these ICE agents, California has is a what do they call it? A sanctuary state. LA is a sanctuary city, and LA basically says, "Hey, we're not going to deal with you ICE agents." So these ICE agents come down. They come to pick up these guys, and they're going to get rid of these guys. And now a full-blown riot has started. It has expanded now, and it's gotten ugly. I mean, it's just gotten ugly. Bottles, tear gas, fires, looting, that kind of stuff. And you've got the mayor of L.A., you've got the governor of the state of California, all saying that the Trump administration has basically fanned the flames of these rioters by basically bringing in they federalized the National Guard, they federalized police officers, they brought in the military to basically say, hey, look, we are not going to have 2020 all over again. So first and foremost, I guess, Pastor Tommy, give me your thoughts on the rioting that you're seeing happen, and and the response. I guess more importantly, the response of Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom.
LA has to be the riot capital of the world. It has to be. I mean, since in my lifetime, I've probably seen 6, 8 huge riots, starting with before Rodney King, actually. So that just tells you. Um, California needs to get its act together. And I feel bad for many of the people in California because they're experiencing this, but they're blaming the wrong people. It was out of order before President Trump sent the National Guard. The police weren't doing anything. They weren't doing anything. This is why he sent them, to protect federal properties. I saw them in front of the federal building. I saw them in front of the VA, because they wanted to tear those things up. But those are federal buildings. It's really sad that in a time like this, when we should be coming together, that there's division, finger pointing, blaming. I want to sue you because you sent help that we didn't ask for. You're the reason why this is happening. We just got to continue to pray. I don't know if you've seen it. New York, Dallas, and a couple of other cities right now are pretty much doing the same thing.
Oh yeah. It's funny. Like as you made reference to that, now Gavin Newsom is going to sue the federal government for the federal government coming in and stepping on his toes, because they. Now I watched the interview with the police chief, LA police chief, and I'm pretty sure I heard him say we were overwhelmed. And
I thought I did too.
And they could not handle it, So it got me thinking. Remember what happened in January 6th, right after January 6th, 2020, a day that will live down in infamy, where you had people who came to the White House, they came to the inauguration, they came to that day, that pivotal day, and they said, hey, guess what? We're going to go down to the White House, or we're going to go down to Congress, and we're going to voice our opinion. And President Trump told Nancy Pelosi, hey, if you want to have federal agents here, if you want to have the National Guard here, because she's responsible for that. She's responsible for protecting it. He goes, I've got these guys ready. All you got to do is tell us. And Nancy Pelosi goes, no, or I didn't hear you. And what happened? Right? I bet you President Trump is very, very, he adapts very well. When he first got into office, there were a lot of things that were done that he did not know that they were going to come. And he said, this is not going to happen again. And 2020, when he saw what happened in 2020, remember the Summer of Love, he said, that ain't going to happen again, ever on my watch. And so he mobilized these guys early. He said, nope, I'm not even going to wait for you to ask. I'm going to do it. And he's well within his constitutional rights. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's the federal government. And these guys are not going out there macheteing people. They're not shooting people. They are, like you said, they are guarding federal buildings. Yep. And Gavin Newsom should be going, woo, thank you, Jesus, right?
Yeah.
But they're not doing that. So why do you think that? So I think that's one thing. I got a couple of things I want to talk about on this whole thing. Why do you think Californians? So that's one thing. Why do you think Californians are so animated about this whole issue of immigration, about ICE detainers and taking people who are not supposed to be here out of their state? Why do you think they're so up about
Well,
this?
I think one of the reasons is you touch anybody's money, they're gonna get upset. That's just
Mm-hmm.
all there is to it. We have families with relatives that are coming over illegally. They're getting, I don't know how much money, but they're getting Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting, a lump sum payment. They're getting EBT cards and all kinds of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we needed those things, we would have to jump through hoops and fill out all this paperwork, and they can just come over illegally and receive these things. So I think one of the things is people's money is being messed with.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, and another thing is just the mindset of that. I don't want to say group of people because I don't want to seem like I'm pointing them out, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a particular mindset that's behind that whole movement,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have that same mindset, and there's actually no reasoning. Uh, there's no reasoning that can actually reach them because they're violent.
Yeah, sure. Well, let me add something to this whole conversation here. I was watching on TV just before we came on, and they were talking about the um, the people mix in the state of California. Let me give you some numbers here, and don't quote me on this, folks, because I'm going to get them wrong. 40% of the people in California are Latino, okay, from Mexico, okay. Um, 39% of those people who are in Los Angeles are Latino. Okay, so it's a big constituency of people who work. 8% of those folks are illegal aliens. So 8% of those people are illegal aliens. So now that you know a little bit more of, and one of the things that Karen Bass said, and a couple other people on the left said, which was very interesting, they said, hey, you're talking about our economy here. Because you did say something that I think you hit it right on the head. It's about money. It's about money, okay? But now I'm thinking, does this mix of having illegal aliens work for you? Does that remind you of something that happened back in the 1860s or so? Does it remind you of a similar sort of thing that happened between the North and the South in America, and that a group of people were fighting so hard to keep their way of life that they said, you know what, doggone it, I'd rather die than to give up my way of life. The South shall rise again. does that? I'm
That's
not trying to put
exactly what
words.
this is.
I'm not trying to put
That's
words in your mouth, but does that remind you of something, Pastor Tom?
Yeah. When you painted it like that, yeah, absolutely. It's
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly, and that's what I mean about a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
That mindset, 100 and something years, almost 200 years ago, is
Mm-hmm.
still prevalent,
Yeah,
and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing
yeah.
that same mindset.
California is the modern day Confederacy, West Coast of America. They have got their slaves, because that's what they are. These folks that are working under the table, those are slaves. That's slave labor. They have a little economy. It may not be because even, and I'm going to say it is so similar to it because most of the South did not have slaves, right? So we don't want to say every person who lived in the South had slaves.
Right.
It was a rich group of white folks that had slaves. That's exactly what's going on now. You've
Yeah.
got landowners who have slaves. They're called Mexicans now, and they're saying you guys better fight for our way of life. And now you got
Uh-huh.
Gavin Newsom who is fighting for it. You got what's her name? Sheila Jackson, not Sheila Jackson Lee. What's her name? Uh,
Waters,
uh, yeah,
Maxine.
Maxine Waters. She's fighting for it. All these guys are fighting. They're going, oh no, we're a sanctuary state. To me, that you look just like the entire South because you're the fourth largest economy, and you're the richest slave holding state there is in America. And I think that's one of the things. I bet you we're going to be the first ones who are going to notice that similarity.
Yeah, that's pretty much on point when you really think about it and just take your time and see the similarities and see what happened then and what's going on now. And that's exactly what it is, and that's their base for voting. Because if that changes, guess what? Everybody's getting voted out.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's another thing, right? It's about body count, right? It's about a body count, right? They don't. So our census, right? So you're talking about the census, right? So the census basically doesn't say American citizens; it just means bodies.
Right.
Body, and we can count you as a person in there. We will apportion you a number of people in how, and there's only a certain amount of a finite number of people or finite number of house seats, and they're saying you got a slave, that's one person. Okay, it's like you've got a Latino, you got an illegal here. So now let me ask you another question, Pastor Tommy. Have you ever heard of the movement called New California?
No, I have not.
Okay, I'm gonna encourage everybody, because I looked this up yesterday. Once God's been speaking to me about this whole thing, this riot thing in California. So back in 2012, 2014, or something like that, there was a group of like 99% of Californians, represented by this one group, said we're tired of this. We're tired of the Gavin Newsom. We're tired of the wokeness. We're tired of the high taxes. We're tired of this whole thing. We want to secede from California. We want to have our own state, like West Virginia and West Virginia. They want to do the exact same thing, and so they started a movement called New California. You can Google it. You can Google it, and they're still working to this day, trying to make that happen. And you would be surprised how big of a movement this is. Basically, the only part of California that would stay California would be LA, San Diego, San Francisco. That's pretty much it. That would be it. It's because the rest of the country says, no, we don't want to have anything to do with you guys. You can keep your coastal elites. You can keep all that you want. We don't want any part of it. New California is going to be, because most of California right now is actually leaning more conservative.
Yeah.
Except for L.A., right? San Diego, San Francisco, those areas right there.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I have a friend that I grew up with, went to school together in elementary, and he and I talk every once in a while, and you know, he's born again, and we talk about the word. And one day we were talking, this was last year, and I go, brother, I just have to ask you, you have got to be the only conservative in California. I said, who do you talk to? He says, I don't talk to anybody. He said, I can't talk to my family. I can't talk to anybody about anything because they just think I'm crazy.
Because they think you're crazy. But no, you know what? California is actually leaning more and more back to what it used to be. California used to be a red state. Yeah. And over the last number of years, it has definitely changed quite a bit. And this is I think one of those times where people are going to start looking. I think another thing as a result, as it relates to this whole riot thing, is that there's calls by Maxine Waters, there's calls by AOC, by Karen Bass, and all these people to abolish ICE. And especially Hakeem Jeffries. And Hakeem Jeffries, for you folks who don't know who he is the minority leader. So he's the leader on the left side of the aisle, and he's been calling for the taking off the masks of the ICE agents. He's been, when they ask about, hey, Hakeem, do you support those ICE agents? He doesn't even say yes or no. He basically says, take those masks off. We want to know who you folks are. And I think people are going to start saying to themselves, and so when you hear things like this, when you hear people like Hakeem Jeffries and AOC and everybody else telling people, look, we Um, we want to take the masks off the ICE agents. I mean, what does that tell you about how they feel about those first responders, those people who are sworn to uphold the laws of the United States?
They're actually stoking the riots.
Mm.
Um, because they're teaching to resist. They're teaching to avoid. Avoiding is one thing, but they're teaching to rip the mask off.
Hmm.
I mean, when you think about that, you're causing someone to rebel. You're inciting rebellion. You're inciting the riots. Um, Somebody's calling the shots behind the scenes. Nobody is just out there, you know. I, I, yeah, that's terrible that we have people like that in office that are giving those undertones of, yeah, it's okay to riot. It's
I
not.
think you're right. Yeah, I'll tell you, this whole riot thing, it's going to probably be the demise of the Democrat Party. I really do, because if you've been alive the last 5 6 years, you were here during 2020 when you saw what they called the summer of love, and you saw people being killed. You saw people. Um, their property damaged. You saw all kinds of craziness during a time when people were being, shut in, and nobody wants to relive that. As a matter of fact, I was watching the news and I was getting so disheartened. But then I started thinking, I was thinking, wait a minute, we win. Yes, we're going to watch the world probably go crazy, but we win. So we actually have, hope. But for
Yes.
the rest of the world goes, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going on? But we have these leaders who keep, like you said, they're fanning the flames. These people who are sworn to uphold the law of the land are not upholding the law of the land. As a matter of fact, they're making it worse.
Hmm.
So I think, I mean, if you're a voter, you're a young voter, and you're watching the TV right now, what are you thinking now about who you should vote for in the midterm elections?
Well, it would all depend on, the environment, because young people now are in one environment or another environment, and
Mm.
they're going to do what their environment is. So when they see these things, they're either going to get repulsed and say, nope, I'm going to the other side, or they're saying, no, I see we need to fight more. We need more people to fight. So it just depends on what side of the fence. Any reasonable person that has the ability to stop, back up, take a look for themselves, stop listening to everybody else and think for themselves. If they're a rational person, they're going to say, you know what, I don't want to live like this.
Yeah, don't want to
You
live
know,
like this. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because John Fetterman, I guess he's the senator from out of Pennsylvania. He is starting to call this out now. He's going, hey guys, guess what? This is wrong. This is so wrong. But you would think that people would look, if you're a politician, okay, and I'm just talking to the politicians that are out there. If somebody, just like it happened 9/11, right? 9/11 happens, these Egyptians come in, go to the World Trade Center, buildings come down, 2,000 people are killed and stuff like that. All America came together like this, right? We came together as a nation, and the flags are flying, right? I mean, some of you can see it in the background. The flags are furling and stuff like that, right? We all knew wrong was wrong. We knew right was right, wrong was wrong, and we were under attack. Now what happened over the last 4 years? 20 million people, they estimate, illegally came into our country. 20 million people. And by huge margins, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, male or female, all agree that these people need to go. These folks have got to go. And most people believe, let's take the bad ones first. Okay, let's get rid of those guys. Okay, we're going to get everybody, but we're going to get the bad ones first, okay? Because we got some bad folks coming in. You would think that the Democrats would say, yes, you're right. Yeah, yeah, because wrong is wrong and right is right, okay? But that ain't happening. So, Pastor Tommy, how can these people say that we serve the interest of America when they can't even start at one and go, this was wrong, allowing 20 million people to come in this country illegally?
The scripture says that there will be groups of people who are deceiving and being deceived.
Mm.
And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing scripture play out because when you are deceived, you're going to make wrong decisions. You're going to say the wrong things. And that's what we're seeing. These people are deceived. Um, and the thing is, they don't know that they're deceived because they want to be deceived. It's self-serving.
Mm-hmm.
They're serving themselves, and they're so greedy and so self-serving that they can't see. That's
Yeah.
why
Mm-hmm.
another scripture says Satan has blinded their eyes,
Yes.
and so they're blind to see that they're hurting other people. They just want their way, and that's it. That's all they care about because they can't see nothing else.
Yeah. And you said something very interesting. They can't see it. They just can't see it. This guy, Kilmar Abrego, that Garcia guy, right? The Maryland man. They call him the Maryland man, right? So he gets kicked out of the country, and they bring him back in. And now, they even had the uh, Chris Van Hollen went down there. You've had a couple other uh, congressmen that went down there to see if he was all right, make sure he was all right. And then they bring him back. They go, okay, we brought him back, and now we're going to tell you exactly what this guy did. And they start listing all the stuff that this guy did. I mean, he's got a rap sheet, 1,000 people that he's brought over. He's having sex with anything and everything that's moving. He's selling drugs. He's doing all this other stuff. And guess what? These people are still going, well, we're not here fighting for because he's a good guy. It's due process. What? We told you this guy was bad. We told you this guy. Now, what are they going to do with these, with the real charges of these guys who they're fighting? These people in LA seem to be fighting for. These people are not just fighting for those guys. They're not. I don't think they care less about that. They don't care about these guys who are get detained. They want to foment evil. They want to see this country destroyed. So and they're looking for an excuse, any excuse they can find to destroy this country.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Wow. Well, we could talk about this all day long, guys. It really could. If this is I'm Pastor Sherman. This is Pastor Tommy, and this is Christ and Culture show. I want to thank you all for being a part of the broadcast today. And once again, if you'd like to get in on the conversation, go and meet us on our Facebook page or on our on our YouTube site at Christ and Culture show. Love for you to be a part of the broadcast and get in on the conversation. If you'd like to write to us, you can write to us at christandcultureshow@gmail.com. That's Christ and, spelled that whole word out, christandcultureshow@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. There's over the weekend also something else happened, and it seems like it was overshadowed now because when it first happened, it was like the only thing that mattered. Oh my gosh, President Trump and Elon Musk. Elon Musk was leaving the White House, and then all of a sudden he just went, wow, something happened. And I'm going to back up just really quickly here because Elon Musk, for those of you who know who he is, he's the richest man in the world, and he matched up with the most powerful man in the world, President Trump. Elon Musk came in to work for our country to start an organization called Doge, and they were basically trying to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in our country. And they brought their findings to the White House, and they said, guys, guess what? There's all kinds of crazy enough stuff here. Simultaneously, though, the House has been working on the budget for the fiscal year, and it's already passed it's called the Big Beautiful Bill. Okay, President Trump gives it the word, the Big Beautiful Bill. And so, they present the congressional approved bill portion to the Senate, and it's not perfect, but it's got to get started. And when Elon Musk, who's now out, he's only been in the office, he was only in for about 100 days or so. He saw this thing and he goes, "This thing sucks," and he starts popping off on X, which is, it's great media to get the word out. And not only does he get upset about it, but then all of a sudden he starts going, "Hey, vote this thing down, and you can't say it's beautiful and a bill. It sucks. Don't vote for it." Well, now he and President Trump are hitting button heads. Before you know it, Elon Musk is calling, the President Trump something. He wasn't even a child of God by then. It just got that bad, right? And so they have broken up. I mean, it's a breakup. It's the bromance is over with. So, Pastor Tom, when you first saw that, let's take it step by step. When you first saw that Elon Musk started going crazy on this whole thing, what did you think?
Yeah, it was initially it was a shock, and then I was trying to figure out why. I still don't know if we know why. I think it's more than just a bill. I don't know. But yeah, it was definitely shocking. But I don't put anything past anybody these days. It's every day is like what do you call those cliffhanger soap operas? Every day you wake up and you go, "What's gonna happen today?"
I know it's crazy. Yeah. Well, but I hear now. Well, I think part of it is that Elon Musk doesn't understand how government works. Even though he understands, what they told him, I don't think he understood that this was basically to get the ball rolling. That the cuts that he wants to see permanent come at a later date. That there's a separate process for making that happen.
Right.
But you have to do one thing at a time, and then you gotta, you don't get everything you want. You see, when he went and started X, he went and slashed and burned. He kicked everybody out. I mean, he got rid of 90% of the people, and it limped for about a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But now it's back on. He figured you could do the exact same thing, but you can't do that in federal government.
Nope.
But it looks like, guess what it looks like? It looks like I wouldn't say the bromance is back. I don't think they're smooching, but at least they're looking at each other now.
Yeah. I heard that. Yeah.
So
and that's good for the country for them to squash it. Even if they do have differences publicly, I believe that they need to squash it so that media, first of all, isn't distracted by that, and then try to distract the public with it, because it's junior high school stuff.
Yeah, it really is. But here's another thing, and my wife and I were talking about this. I said, "You know what, honey? I think Elon Musk has. I think he's bipolar.
I think so too.
I think he is, because you don't just go nuts like that, just to be vindictive, and then 2 days later go, but I kind of like him. You don't do that unless something is not. I've got family members who are that way, and they can go nuts, and then the next week or the next day, they're fine, and they expect you to be fine too. But Donald Trump's not that guy.
Yeah, and he was shocked by it too. He said, "I don't know what's going on with him." President Trump could have said, "We had a disagreement. It is what it is," or whatever. But he was shocked. He's like, "I don't know what's going on."
Yeah, and
so,
you know what?
I think you're right.
Yeah, and he doesn't have time for that. And people were asking him, they're going, "Hey, Trump, what are you gonna?" He goes, "I don't have time for this, dude. No, I'm not gonna waste." I think, and I heard this very interesting, that they were talking about, the president got shot and lost part of his ear and stuff like that, and they said that actually. There was a Miranda Devine. No, not Miranda Devine. There's another writer who's writing a book, and she said that she interviewed the president, and that there was, in a very tender moment, he was it affected him more. The shot in the ear, and the revelation that he could have been killed, actually did something to him. So that's why you see him moving so fast on everything. He's not waiting for anybody. He doesn't care, because he knows that he was saved for a reason.
Yes.
And he's not wasting any time. So I think Elon Musk, he might like Elon, but he doesn't have time for it.
Yep. Yep. And we all could take something from that. We don't have time to be deceived and distracted, because we were called to accomplish his purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do.
I think so. Awesome. There's another story, and we're talking about, this one's from SRN News, and it was talking about people in the homosexual, way of life. And the headline on this one says, most homosexuals seek to promote the LGBTQ agenda. It says a new poll from Pew Research finds that 66% of that community, the LGBTQ or gay community, have participated in a gay pride event at least once in their life. And the majority of those people have done it more frequently. People who identify as gay or lesbian are more likely than members of other subgroups to participate in Gay Pride Month. Okay, we don't really observe Gay Pride Month at all. We just, somebody said something about it, but that's pretty much it. Those events are expected to be somewhat muted now that the president is in office and the nation seems to be rejecting the LGBTQ agenda. Now, does this come as a surprise to you, Pastor Tommy?
In a way, yes, but in a way, no. In a way, yes, that it happened so fast. But in a way, no. I knew that President Trump would definitely be an influence over that.
Yeah. Does it surprise you? Does it surprise you that most LGBTQ folks, most homosexuals, want to promote that movement?
No, that's not a shock.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in San Francisco, and no, that's not a shock at all.
Yeah. And I think most people think to themselves, oh, they're just going to live and let live. I go, no, they're not going to live and let live. They want to take over. They want you to, and I think it goes along with this, what do they call it? The Drag Queen Story Hour. The Drag Queen Story Hour that came across my desk during the weekend also. And I don't remember where it's at. They've had them before. And for those of you who may not know what Drag Queen Story Hour is about, it's really a bunch of guys dressed up in flamboyant, almost cartoonish women's costumes, and prancing around a bunch of little kids at public events, and in this case it was at a public library, what you and I pay for, to read them stories about nastiness, about things that kids should never be exposed to, ever be exposed to. And that's part of the LGBTQ thing, that they seem to think, oh no, it's fine, you should expose your kids to this. I never, tell you the truth, I never saw a man in a woman's dress who was trying to live it as a lifestyle ever growing up. Well, no, one kid in school, high school. There was one child in high school who was dressing as a girl, and we all kind of went, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this guy actually is doing that. So your thoughts on the whole Drag Queen Story Hour?
I think it's absolutely horrible. In a public place, I mean, and to force it, I take my daughter to the library. I haven't seen it here at all, but I could just imagine walking in on that, because we do frequent the library, especially in the summertime. But I just couldn't imagine walking in on that and having to explain to my daughter what she just saw.
This is bad. I mean, we've seen this across the nation where our kids are being exposed to things that they should never be exposed to, whether it be Drag Queen Story Hour or just in our public schools. in the libraries in our public schools. There was a story. We didn't get it this week, but it happened earlier last week, where a lady got up in front of the city council, and she started reading one of the books that was in the library, and she said something that was like, "Oh," and one of the city councilmen went, "Whoa, whoa, hold it, ma'am! Oh, you can't say that. You gotta keep it clean in here." And the lady goes, "Oh, well, wait a minute. So I can't read this in front of you here
Right.
at this place, and yet you want this in my kid's school, in their
Right.
public library." And that's what is being forced upon our kids. We don't know. Most parents have no idea. They're just oblivious to what's going on in their schools. But there are watchdog groups that are watching this, and they're saying, "Guys, you need to wake up and see that this is something that you as a parent need to know, and you need to not only know about it, but you need to get bold enough to say, no, we're not going to have this in our home schools." So, Pastor Tommy, say you find out your child doesn't go to a public school, but I mean, what would be your reaction to, that kind of stuff being in their public schools?
I would be there so fast. I probably would get a ticket for running every stoplight, every stop sign. I would
Mm-hmm.
be there so fast, and I would have to speak calmly. Um, but yeah, I would definitely let them know this is not okay. Absolutely not.
Yeah, yeah.
And just knowing my mindset, I would probably pull my kid out right then and there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I you
Yeah.
know I am of the opinion, Pastor Tommy. Um, I know a lot of I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack on this, you guys, but I just don't think that I think parents shouldn't even wrestle with this question. They probably should not have their kids in public schools. I just don't think they should. If you want to, because public schools are, um, they're dangerous. They're dangerous to your kids growing up. Um, they they allow things in them that your kids should not be exposed to ever. I mean, not even a little bit. It's not like you could say, "Oh yeah, every kid's no." Your kid does not have to be exposed to this stuff. If you want your kid to grow up as a wonderful child, I watched something very interesting today, and many of you know that the president's granddaughter, and I forgot her name now, to tell you the truth, but I follow her on my Facebook feed, and all it shows of her is basically her having fun in life, just having fun, plays golf, goes out with her girlfriends, and she puts all this stuff online. That's the way your kid should be. Your kids should be out just having fun, eating crazy food, and enjoying life, and not worrying about drag queen story hour,
That's
or,
what we did.
right? Or being exposed to things that your kids should never be exposed to. Have them get out of the house, go ride their bikes, build forts. You know what I mean? Get a paper route, throw the paper,
Yeah.
and go out to the pond and fish. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right? There's no law that says your kid has to be exposed to crap like this. And that's what happens when they go to these places. And they're exposed to these things. So if you're gonna write, folks, just write to me. And my name is Tommy Allums. No, yeah, I'm a big boy. You can write to me. That's fine. Yeah. So I mean, has your child? Has your child been? Because how do you feel? I mean, your child's well adjusted. I mean, your child's a beautiful kid. So, do you think she's missed anything by not being in public school?
No, not at all. Because I teach my kids. You know,
Mm-hmm.
even my older kids, when they were in being homeschooled, people say, "Don't you think your kids are missing out?" I go, "Missing out on what?" They go, "Just being with other kids." I said, "They play outside with the neighborhood kids." And
Mm-hmm.
they go, "Well, how do they play sports?" They play sports, with the city league, the city teams, and they had all these excuses. They said, "Well, how are they going to be social if they're homeschooled all day?" I said, "You talk to my kids. You see how they they look you in the eye and shake your hand and say,
Mm-hmm.
"How are you? Nice to meet you." You see that for yourself. Do they look like they're missing out on anything? And they go, "Well, no." It's because I spent time with them, teaching them what they needed to be taught
Mm-hmm.
instead of what everybody thinks they should be exposed to.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny how these folks all seem to think your kid needs to be exposed to this. And no, they don't.
Right?
They just don't.
They
You know,
don't.
there's another story. This one is actually from the New York Post, and I don't know if you saw this over the weekend. Everything happened this weekend. It was one of those crazy things. Everything happened over the weekend. You had her name is Riley Gaines. So Riley Gaines is a swimmer, Olympic level swimmer, and she is the basically the face of the women's movement since having to since exposing a male swimmer um, who Leah Thomas, who basically had won all of these medals as a male swimming in a women's sport. So over the weekend, similar sort of thing happened. There was a girls group who played baseball. I think I forgot where it was at, is in Indiana or something like that. Girls sports. They won this state championship. Well, that was wonderful if they'd all been girls, but their pitcher was a boy, and the boy not only pitched well, but he struck out like everybody. He pitched 5 games in a row, and I think they hit him once, so they made one run or something like that. Okay, so they won the last game 6-0. All right, so Riley Gaines puts on I think she put it on X or something like that. She goes, well, yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, you would have never won if it weren't for the guy. Well, Simone Biles, many of you know who Simone Biles is. Simone Biles is a Olympic gymnast. That she's the GOAT. She's the best thing that's ever happened in women's sports. She comes on and she starts getting all over Riley Gaines. This escalated because Riley Gaines basically said, "I didn't know it was actually Simone. I thought it was maybe a fake." Well, it wasn't. Simone Biles started body shaming her, and then said, "Hey, guess what? You should be fighting for men's, or excuse me, transgenders and stuff like that." And it went back and forth, went back and forth. Well, this escalated to the point over the weekend. Simone Biles got torched. She got just lit up with people saying things. Danica Patrick got involved in this thing also, and she said, "Look, there should not be a male in it. Okay, in this sport." There is a silver line in this whole thing because it did resolve itself today, but and that resolution was Simone Biles apologized. Yeah, I know, it's a surprise, right? She apologized to Riley Gaines and said, "Hey, I'm sorry." I don't think she realized how bad this was going to get for her. I mean, she got torched over the weekend because she's still competing, but like most women at her level, she thought, "Oh, I can say whatever I want." So, Pastor Tommy, has this gotten to the point where do you think Simone Biles has learned her lesson, and do you think that this is going to spill over into more women saying to themselves, we've had enough. We've had enough of these men trying to be women and basically taking up all the oxygen in our sport."
Hopefully, she learned her lesson. I think there's more women than not that are not wanting men in their sports. I think most don't want to compete against men. Um, and it's sad that people are not sensitive enough to know what's actually going on and coming to the realization. Because if she were to compete against man in gymnastics, there's no way that she would be the best again if she
Mm-mm.
had to compete against a man. It just wouldn't happen. So I think maybe that was something that she thought about or someone brought up to her and she really thought about it. And I think a lot of women probably feel that way. Maybe they're not voicing it, But we're going to start seeing more and more women step up and say, you know, we're not like the high school girls a couple weeks ago. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're not going to stand on the podium. We're just not
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
wasn't fair.
I think there's a simple solution to this. Women just say, nope, I'm not going to do it.
Yep.
We're not going to do it, and we're going to sue you under Title IX, and watch the school districts go, what? You mean you're all suing us? Oh, yeah, we're going to have a class action lawsuit, and we're going to do whatever we got to do, because if they don't, this is going to continue. It's going to continue. Yeah. As we said, the LGBTQ, transgender, they want you to accept them. They want this to be a normal part of your life, and it is not. This is a sick thing going on. You know, they had a boy over the weekend. I think it's been over the last week or so. He was in, and we talked about this last week, I believe. He was in the girls' track. He won the high jump, or placed in at least 3. I think he won 2, and he placed in the 3rd. And he was up there going, and I'm going, this is a guy with the pigtails. even a skinny guy with pigtails is more than a match for the top level. Oh, and as a matter of fact, they showed a picture. I'm watching the picture of him right now. Even a skinny guy is more than a match for a top level women's, unless she's a Jamaican sprinter, because you're not going to beat a Jamaican sprinter. I don't care who you are. You're not going to beat a Jamaican sprinter. But these women just should stop. They should, no, I'm not going to do it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that too. You know, I thought about what you just said, and when I was in junior high and a freshman in high school, I was running faster than the women's Olympic team.
Yeah.
And what was I, 13, 14 years old?
That's just the way it is, right? There's no shame in that, right? Girls are girls, guys are
Right,
guys, right?
right. That's why we have a girls track team and a boys track team.
That's I think that's what it is, right? It set the record for women. When they have the women's marathon, the women start like a half an hour or an hour before the guys do.
Yeah.
And the guys are still going to beat them, because that's just the way it is, right? Unless you're a really slow running guy, you're still going to beat all the women. Okay, that's why they let them go early. They go ahead, women, and the top guy just blows through it, and the women just kind of they're going fast for women. Okay, they showed they made the comparison. They said that I think it was a high school soccer team beat the Olympic women's soccer team.
Well, there you go.
And so, what do you think is going to happen? And so, what do you think is going to happen if you put a guy out there, and why don't you put the guy on the women's soccer team as the goalie?
There you go.
You ain't getting any goals out of that. I'm telling you right now. You just don't kick that hard. Right? Yeah, you know. But it just, so anyways, that's that story. So I think that I'm really praying that what happens is that you have a change of heart, a change of mind. So let's finish with this last story. They're talking about the chair of the DNC. I don't remember seeing this story. The chair of the DNC, basically, there's a guy who's a chair and then the vice chair. The vice chair of the DNC, his name is David Hogg, and the chairman of the Democrat National Committee, his name is Ken Martin, and he was, I guess they were having a conversation, and he was talking to him, and he said, "Hey, Dave, you know, I know you didn't mean to do this, but you've basically taken up all the energy and all the oxygen with all your shenanigans and all of your bravado and everything else, and I can't do my job, and I'm really thinking that I'm going to even quit." I mean, he said he wasn't going to quit, but he's so disheartened that this young buck has come in, and David Hogg is a firebrand. I mean, he's like a lightning rod, and he wants to basically primary all the old folks. He wants to bring in some new guys. Now, he's like, what, 26, 27, something like that. He's a young kid. And so what do you think about a guy who's basically the head of the DNC, who's saying, "Hey, Dave, you know, you hurt my feelings, and I don't know if I can do my job." I guess I don't know how to say.
That's exactly